Never lose a client again. Joey Coleman on the first 100 days that make or break retention.
Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast.
We're your hosts, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because, let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together.
Welcome back to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. Today's episode is about the make or break window most agents never think about, the first 100 days after someone becomes a client or joins your team. But before we begin, as always, we got all the goodies put together for you, including the show notes and how to connect with our amazing guest. If you go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast, we already put it together for you, so make sure you grab it. Joining me today is the legendary Joey Coleman, an award-winning speaker and author of 2 Wall Street Journal bestsellers, Never Lose a Customer Again, which is required reading for our team, by the way, and Never Lose an Employee Again. Joey has worked with organizations ranging from startups to Xbox to Volkswagen Australia, Zappos, Whirlpool, and has spoken on 7 continents, which, my math is right, is every single continent, which that's really cool. Like I've talked about Antarctica because that's really interesting. And before building his business, he was a criminal defense trial attorney and worked at the White House Office of Counsel to the President. Today, we're going to get into the first 100 days framework, the 8 phases every customer employees go through, and what it actually takes to turn one-time client into a lifelong advocate and a new hire into a long-term producer. So let's dive on in. Welcome to the show, Joey.
David, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I am super excited to be here with you and the listeners and really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. It was such a blessing and honor to get to actually connect in person at a conference that we were both at, that I didn't know that you were going to be there. And so I was so surprised and got to go up and be like, hey, my audience would love to hear from you, would love if you are able to come on the podcast. So I'm so glad we got to make this happen. And so I guess the first place to start is always usually the beginning. We can maybe skip past, the birth story to a little bit later on, but, you've been on quite the journey to end up to your area and passion today. I'd love you to take us a little bit through that journey and how you ended up here.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, David, it has been an eclectic path to say the least, right? So I studied government and international relations in undergrad. I went to law school where I studied national security law, international law, and litigation. Had the opportunity to work in Fortune 500 business consulting, worked for the U.S. Secret Service, for the White House Office of Counsel to the President, for the CIA. I was a criminal defense lawyer for a while. I taught at the post-grad level. I ran a division of a promotional products company for a while. I ran an ad agency for about 15 years. And for the last decade plus, I've been a full-time speaker, writer, and consultant in the area of creating remarkable experiences. So creating remarkable experiences for your clients as well as your team members. And normally when I explain kind of like, here's what the career path looks like, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, he cannot hold a job. What is going on? Like he bounces from one job to the next. And while we can debate whether that's true, what I can tell you is that in every job I've had, even though they seem totally different in their focus and their industry and their area of operation, in each of those jobs, the way you succeeded was by having a keen understanding of the human condition. Why do humans do the things they do? And what can we do to convince, persuade, or encourage them to do the things we'd like them to do? And so that's a thread that really connects it all together and what has really led me to where I am today, which is spending all day, every day, thinking about the experiences we create and how those experiences impact and affect and motivate or demotivate the people that are interacting in those experiences with us.
I love that. And I also believe like everything happens for a reason, and we gather experiences from each of those things. I've had quite a few turnarounds in life on some of those, but it wouldn't have led me up to where I am today. And I'm very thankful for that. And if anything, I see a resume like that, it's like this person was meant to be an entrepreneur when it comes down to that, right? And it's interesting. My grandma actually worked admin for the CIA back in the day.
Really?
I didn't ever get a chance to talk to her about that, because I was like 5, I think, when she passed. But my dad told me about that a little bit. She's like, can't say anything. She'd get all the reports from the field and have to file them and can't talk about it. Which I know there's things you very much can't talk about from the Secret Service, CIA experience. But from that in the White House and from these things, like, what are some of the ways this helped experience the way that you think about trust and relationships from those experiences you've brought with you to now?
Well, I think let's talk specifically about trust and relationships in that context, right? So the way you succeeded in a lot of those roles was being able to establish trust and rapport, and in a short amount of time. And let's be candid, that's what an insurance agent is really trying to do. You know, ideally, when you meet an insurance agent at the beginning, you're trying to establish a relationship and get some policies or get some protection that's going to help you if something goes awry in the future, right? If something doesn't go exactly as planned. And so the very concept of insurance is about, I trust you, insurance agent, to get me into the right policy, the right investments, the right opportunities to protect against negative future consequences, whether that's illness, whether that's, property or casualty type situation, whether that's loss of life at an unexpected time frame, or even loss of life in an expected time frame, wanting to be able to take care of loved ones as a final expense or that type of scenario. But the practical reality is, when you first start that relationship, the client, or in this case, the prospect, is skeptical. They're skeptical because they know you're getting paid for the product. They know you've got to make money somewhere, and they've heard the horror stories, and they've probably dealt with insurance agents in the past who've been anything but helpful. I mean, I say this from a place of respect. As a former criminal defense lawyer who, trust me, there's a lot more jokes out there about lawyers than there are about insurance agents. But it's not that big of a delta between the two as far as how they are seen in the marketplace. And so I think your ability to establish trust, your ability to establish rapport, your ability to create personal and emotional connection with a prospect, and then to carry that into the relationship as a client, and then to carry it in over the years that you hope that client is in relationship with you and continuing to pay premiums and continuing to do business with you, and potentially expanding the depth of policies or relationships that they have with you. That's all built at the beginning based on personal and emotional connection. How do you create rapport? How do you create trust? How do you show up in a way that creates points of commonality or points of experience that we can then build on into the future?
I love that, and I've also heard all the attorney jokes, as my dad was an attorney, not as fun as criminal, more estate planning and trust. But I think he heard every single one of those jokes growing up. Was like, "Don't be an attorney." I said, "You don't have to tell me twice, Dad." It was like, that's way too much school for me. But no, I love highlighting that key part of the trust, because insurance, not just from this normal sales challenges you run into, that, hey, I'm getting paid off of having this conversation, but they have a few things working against them, that this is intangible. You're getting a piece of paper with a promise. This isn't a car I can touch. It's a promise. And so I have to trust this person I'm talking to and what they're delivering to me, that this is going to actually happen or exist down the road when this, comes to pass. And so,
and David, you're so right. And to make matters worse, not only are you saying, I trust that you're going to deliver on this in the future, but if I'm the client, I want to never have to use this. Right? Because if I use it, that means somebody got really sick, somebody died, or somebody was injured, or a property was destroyed. So I never want to use it. But when we come to the situation, the circumstance that is going to require me to see, did you really live up to the promise? Is this really what I bought? Is this really what I paid for? Am I really protected and taken care of? You're hitting the person at what is probably one of the top 5 lowest emotional points of their life. right? And so when we think about the delta between the trust and rapport we're trying to create and the angst, pain, and suffering they will be experiencing when we determine whether that trust was worth it, insurance agents are up against a gigantic challenge, right? And the practical reality is, and I say this with respect to the folks who are in the industry, your competitors, your predecessors haven't done the best job of creating a reputation for the industry that people feel like, oh, well, I'm going to be taken care of. Instead, they feel like I'm going to be nickeled and dimed. Things aren't going to be covered. I'm going to have to pay more than I thought. All this money that I've put in is going to be a waste. Why am I even signing up for these policies in the first place? That's the challenge you face when the prospect walks into your office before you've even had a chance to let them know who you are, what you stand for, or how you like to do business.
Yeah, it's bad when pop culture and movies, everybody runs from the insurance agent, right? When they want to talk insurance, right? So, you're talking about the most important things in people's lives, their families, their health, their possessions, their legacies. And so ultimately trust is the biggest factor. We talk about the trust tax the tax agents pay by not having trust in place. And there's a lot of that goes into client acquisition, but there's this huge area where it doesn't do you any good if you got all that in place and you move forward and you sold that policy, if you then lose that client immediately after that, not to mention all the potential future referrals and all the amazing things that can come from an advocate. So I know that's a big area of focus for this industry, and I would love to dive into that. And you've created a whole methodology around that, the first 100 days on that. How did that come together, and what does that name actually mean?
Yeah, so it came together in a couple of ways. Number one, I was running my ad agency. And of course, part of my job in the ad agency was to create the kind of ads and campaigns that drove new leads and ideally new customers and new clients to the folks that I was working for. And we did this gigantic campaign for one of my clients where we drove tens of thousands of new customers. Like, it was amazing. It was a great campaign. It worked incredibly well. And about 4 months later, I was having the conversation with the chief marketing officer, who was my point of contact at the company. And we were going to be talking about the next year's budget. Now, at the time, I was thinking, we're going to have a great budget for next year because we totally just rung the bell on this one. It was amazing. It was great. And we get on the phone to have the conversation, and he says, yeah, Joey, we're going to pretty much keep the numbers the same, if not cut them back a little next year. And I was like, whoa, out of curiosity, why? I thought we did such a great job. He goes, no, you did. He said, we did a great job of getting them in the door, but most of those new customers have quit. I was like, what do you mean they've quit? And he's like, yeah, they signed up, but then they canceled their subscriptions. They canceled their participation. They quit. And in this moment, David, I realized that I was only doing a piece of the puzzle. And while sales is certainly challenging, it is a lot easier to chase and catch than it is to keep and retain. It's a lot easier. Why? Because as human beings, we are preconditioned biologically and societally to be more excited about the shiny new thing, to be more excited about the chase, to be more excited about dating than marriage, to be more excited about, let's try this new thing that's new and different and interesting versus let's continue to double down on this thing that is consistent and long-term and long-standing. And so in that moment, I realized that going forward, I wouldn't sign any new clients if we didn't also talk about their onboarding. And we didn't also talk about how they're going to get these leads, not only to convert and become customers or become clients, but then to stay for an appreciable amount of time. And when I started doing research, I found out that across all industries globally, 20 to 70% of new customers will quit doing business with that company before the 100-day anniversary. 20 to 70%. These numbers were staggering to me. But what was crazier to me than this gigantic number of people that were running out the back door as quickly as we brought them in the front is that the typical business leader had no idea what their percentage was. It wasn't even a metric they were tracking. And so the idea of the first 100 days and the idea of the methodology that is built to address what's happening during this time came from the research, came from looking at human behavior across all industries and saying this is a problem that affects every business on the planet, yet very few businesses are paying attention to it. And that led me on a multi-decade search to figure out, well, how do we counter it? And can we create a system and a framework and a process that's replicable across industries, regardless of business size, regardless of whether your product or service, online or offline, domestic or international? Can we come up with something that works in every scenario? And thankfully, we were able to do that. And since then, it's been tested and tried in every industry imaginable by companies of all sizes and experience levels, selling all types of products and services. And it's really about, can we lay a foundation in those first 100 days of remarkable experiences that make people want to stay? Because the last stat I'll share is that if on day 101, a client is thrilled about the relationship, they feel that there's trust and rapport, they feel like they're valued, they're seen, they're heard, they're appreciated, they feel confident about where the relationship is going and what's already been established as a foundation, the typical client will stay a client for a minimum of 5 years. 5 years. So this is one of the most dispositive timeframes in the entire client journey about retention, about ongoing relationship, about ongoing trust and rapport. We just have to get these first 100 days right, and we can ride that wave for months and years to come.
And those are some huge numbers. I didn't realize that it was that large. I mean, 20% is already huge enough, but 70%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, agents listening, if you can do the same amount of sales or even slightly less, but end up in the same or even better spot, then once again, it's more efficient and less work on your side. So keeping the customers, right, versus a leaky bucket that you put more in, they just keep flowing out the bottom on the leaky bucket, right? So
absolutely. Not to mention, talk about ongoing depth of relationship with your existing clients. If you look at all industries globally, the likelihood of closing a new piece of business from a lead across all industries, regardless of what you're saying, averages out to be about 20%. So 20% is the average sales close rate for salespeople globally. If you are selling to someone that you already are doing business with, the likelihood of closing goes from 20% to 60 to 70% likelihood of closing. So I'm not interested in your first life insurance policy. I'm interested in how this first one will get you policies 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm interested in how health insurance for you as you grow your family becomes health insurance for your whole family. I'm interested in how getting you set up for auto insurance for you and your spouse will change when your kids turn 16 and we're adding them to the policy, right? So I'm always trying to think about the real benefit for additional dollars, for additional revenue, for easier sales process, for more profitable dollars and revenue comes from the length of the relationship, even more than it comes from the number of policies we've written.
I love that. I mean, it just spikes the lifetime value of that client. Like
exactly.
PNC knows if I just have their auto, there may be 60, 70% retention. But if I have their home and also a life insurance policy, it's a 99.5% retention. They're going to stay your customer. So keeping the relationship not only allows just more opportunities on sales side and retention, but also for more referrals coming from them as well, which, I mean, when you have business gets into that's warm and an easy close, then, that's the best place to be in.
Yeah. And, I mean, David, I've never met a business owner in any industry who has said to me, hey, Joey, we're all good on referrals. We don't want any more. Right? It doesn't exist. These, if referrals done right, are create an environment where you have uncompensated, uncommissioned salespeople who work night and day to bring you highly qualified, pre-vetted prospects who are greater than 50% likelihood of closing. That seems like a no-brainer to me. The problem I think a lot of agents deal with is they want to jump to that level of advocacy, that level of referral type conversation really early in the relationship. I liken this stuff to dating. You know, you start dating someone, you go out on a first date, you sit down to dinner, and before you've even placed your order for appetizers, your date's like, so when do I get to meet your parents? And it's like, I'm sorry, we haven't even ordered yet. As crazy as that would sound in a dating context and would send off all kinds of warning bells that we've got a stage 5 clinger here, right? Like people would be not interested in this. This is how most insurance agents behave. We get a new client and we immediately say, well, you know, you're a partner at a law firm. Do your other partners need policies? Or, let's talk about your siblings. You mentioned you've got a couple siblings in town. You know, I can take care of them too. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Prove to me that this relationship is worth it before you ask me to expend my social capital, my trust and rapport to introduce you to people that are in my network. You have to earn that right, and that right gets earned by behavior and time. It doesn't get earned just by the fact that I decided to roll the dice and try something with you.
And I mean, it's almost some cognitive dissonance with agents of what they ultimately know they want and desire and what they're actually putting in place and doing, right? Their actions are all the opposite of really what they desire. I want warm people that already know who I am, that come from referrals, that are trusted, that respect me, that see me as an authority, that I can help, that are open to me having that discussion. But I'm going to spend all my time trying to call someone 1,000 times, get them there, push them through to a sale, never talk to them again, and basically do the opposite. So I think us talking about, hey, what does it look like to put things in place and shift more to align with what you want is huge. Because at the end of the day, agents want it. They just, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing? What am I leaving out?
Absolutely. Right? David, and I think you're so spot on. I think so many agents, and I think this applies to all industries, but we see it a lot in insurance and in financial advising. So much of the marketing messaging is about, we're going to take care of you. We're going to protect you. We're going to be there for you in the hard times. You can count on us, that type of messaging. And then as soon as the policy's written and as soon as the paperwork has been received, it's like, when will I ever hear from you again? 9 times out of 10, I'll hear from you again when you want to sell me something else. Not when you want to check in, not when you want to see how I'm doing. I think back to the insurance agent that my father had when I was growing up. This guy's really interesting. Small town in northwestern Iowa, 25,000 people. The local insurance guy, what was fascinating is, and I talked to him about this years later and learned his process. I didn't understand his process as a kid, but I learned it later. Every morning, he and his team would sit down with the local newspaper. And they would go through and they got multiple copies and they would cut out articles that mentioned the names of any of their clients or any of their clients' kids. Now, I'm one of 7 kids. So my dad, every give or take 2 or 3 months, would get an envelope in the mail. And the envelope, he'd open it up and it would have a newspaper clipping. Now, I know I'm dating myself and this agent when I say that, right? But it'd have a newspaper clipping with a Post-it note that said, saw that Joey was in the paper again, saw that Tommy won the game, saw that, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a quick, created. And I have not met a parent that doesn't appreciate when other adults recognize the success their children are having. And it was something simple. It took time. They invested time in it every single day. But year after year, as the premiums went up, year after year, as the number of policies that my dad was encouraged to get because of the advice from his insurance agent, these things were built on the fact that there were multiple interactions that had nothing to do with a sale, but had everything to do with rapport, had everything to do with relationship. And I think that's something that a lot of agents have either never knew because they came to the industry long after newspapers were around, or they've been taught, oh, this is about posting on social media and this is about getting more leads, or maybe go buy leads from here, as opposed to what are you doing to cultivate the relationship? I'd be willing to bet anybody listening would fall into this category. If I were to ask you, how much money are you planning to spend this year on marketing? They could give me an answer that was within a couple dollars, a rounding error of how much they plan to spend. But if I were to ask those same agents, how much money do you intend to spend on retention? They'd go, well, it's complicated because it's a couple of things. We have like a client appreciation event and like we're going to do this. And it's like, no. What's the number? It's a lot less clarity. I'm not saying don't keep marketing. You should keep marketing. You should keep driving new business. What I'm saying is that if you're willing to invest, let's say industry average globally, 8% of revenue goes back into marketing and sales. If you're willing to spend 8% of revenue on marketing, can we just carve off 0.5% or 1% of that 8 and put that towards retention? Can we put that towards showing the love to people that are already clients? Because I can tell you for a fact, the return on investment of money spent on existing clients is much greater than the return on investment of the typical spray and pray marketing campaign that most agents adopt.
Preach. I love it. If I mentioned that 1,000 times, if people are listening, please pay attention to that. It's people that know you, like you, trust you, and have already bought from you are going to be your biggest advocates, the people that then purchase more from you as well. Don't leave them hanging. Just go try to find someone new. It's once again, the leaky bucket side. I love the example an insurance agent did, and it's not like that same strategy could be applied today. I know newspapers aren't as popular today. There was a novelty a little bit, but applied today from social and articles online and being able to reach out, like congratulate.
Grab a screenshot from something online. A lot of the agents are serving clients who there might be like a neighborhood magazine that's doing profiles on people in the magazine, or maybe you're a sponsor of the local high school and you're an insurance agent who like throws some money when they come to you and they ask for donation. All you need to do is turn around and say, hey, can you put me on the newsletter? Can you send me the newsletter that you're sending to all the parents? If I'm a sponsor, I want to see the messaging that's going out. And then you just print that newsletter and you use it as an opportunity. And the reason I say print is I love sending stuff in the mail. We live in an era where everything is pushing to be more digital. Friends, pay attention here. When the entire herd is moving one direction, you can easily stand out by going the opposite direction. So as everybody goes more digital, you shift analog. Send something in the mail. Actually stop by and see them. Give them a physical gift. Have an in-person interaction. These type of in-person, human, tangible, analog experiences are going to become worth their weight in gold as we become more AI-powered, more digitally powered, more automated, more systematized. To be clear, I'm not opposed to any of those digital approaches. I'm opposed to you thinking that deep personal and emotional connection is being created by an email. It's not, right? That's created by sending someone something in the mail, or meeting them in person, or seeing them out and about and being like, oh, David, I saw that, you were written up in the local paper, like about your contributions to the local high school. My gosh, that was amazing. Thanks for supporting. My kid goes to that high school and I really appreciate that. Now David's like, oh, wow, thanks. It's nice to be seen. It's nice to be valued. It's nice to be appreciated. This is basic human condition stuff.
I love that. And I'm thinking even from social, as people like to share the things that they find valuable or important. My kid just graduated, just had a grandbaby, whatever that was. I mean, I can literally go to a profile, see what's most important happening, and I can write a letter or a card to them. Hey, congrats on your son graduating high school. That's so amazing. I bet you're really proud of them. And that's really exciting. And sending something there, having that personal impact, because it's amazing the level of impact that these personalizations, these reach outs, these touch points make. That's why they're so important. That's why the 100 days is so important. Almost as powerful as the root beer, which if you don't know that story, go read Never Lose a Customer Again. That's one of my favorite stories out there. But it's so powerful. And I'd love if you take us a little bit for maybe those who haven't checked out the book and what these 100 days look like. Could you walk us a little bit through the 8 phases of that customer journey?
Sure. So there are 8 phases. They all start with the letter A. That's not meant to confuse anyone, but rather to say that if you get all of these right, it's like getting straight A's on your report card. Your clients love you. They feel like you're paying attention in all the subjects that matter to them, right? So here are the 8 phases. I'll go through them quickly, and then we can double click or dive deeper into any ones that are interesting. The first phase is the assess phase. In the assess phase, a prospective customer is assessing whether or not they want to do business with you. They're checking out your marketing materials. They're going through your sales process. They're kind of getting a feel for who you are, what you offer, how you might be able to help them. We then come to phase 2, the admit phase. In the admit phase, the prospect admits that they have a problem or a need that they believe you can help them with. They sign on the dotted line. They hand over their hard-earned cash. They transition from being a prospect to a customer. In the insurance world, this is where the prospect says, you know what? Yes, I want to get my insurance with you. You've told them how much it's going to cost. They're ready to go. Yes, let's move forward. We then go to phase 3, the affirm phase. Now, mind you, we're 8 phases total. The sale happens in phase 2. So most people are going, wait, I thought I was done then. No, friends, there's 6 more phases after this. We're barely 25% into the journey when the sale is made. We then come to phase 3, the affirm phase. The affirm phase, in common parlance, is referred to as buyer's remorse. The new client begins to doubt the decision they just made. And insurance agents are going to be all too familiar with the chargebacks that come around once there's a doubt about the decision that was already made. They already signed up for the policy. You think you're good to go. And then they're like, no, cancel the policy. I don't want to do this. Give me a refund, whatever it may be. In the affirm phase, we need to affirm the choice the prospect made. We need to let them know that we're excited to have them as a client, that their decision-making process was not only valid, but wise, and that they're going to be taken care of in the future. We then come to phase 4, the activate phase. The activate phase is the first real moment of truth, right? This is where the things you were promising start to get delivered on. Now, insurance, it gets a little tricky because if your promise is, hey, if you're ever in a car accident, you'll be taken care of. Or, hey, if you ever get really sick, you'll be taken care of. Or, hey, if you die, your loved ones will be taken care of. We're putting the delivery on the promise weeks, months, decades into the future. That's problematic. The activate phase is when the things that you were promised start to happen. So one of the things an insurance agent could be like is, hey, we've got your policy here. It's ready to go. And the person goes, oh, I'm protected. And we celebrate that. We celebrate the peace of mind and the confidence of being protected, even though we haven't tested the protection through a claim scenario. We then come to phase 5, the acclimate phase. The acclimate phase is when the client gets used to your way of doing business, your cadence of communication. So you've got your first relationship with them, but you might be planning future relationships with them. Their family might be growing, time might be changing, they might be getting a different job, et cetera, et cetera. In the acclimate phase, the client is getting used to us and we're getting used to them. Now, where this is particularly problematic for insurance agents is you've done this hundreds of times, thousands of times, maybe even tens of thousands of times. But to a brand new client, they have no idea what to expect. They don't know that you have an annual party where you get all your clients together and celebrate. They don't know that you are going to check in with them every 6 months to make sure there hasn't been a claim that they haven't made you aware of. They don't know that you're going to continue to talk to them about new opportunities, new investments, new policies they might be interested in. Because even though you might have told them about that in the sales process, they haven't experienced it with you. So you got to hold their hand and help them acclimate. We then come to phase 6, the accomplish phase. The accomplish phase occurs when the client achieves the goal they originally had when they decided to become a client. Now, for most insurance agents, when they initially get exposed to this, they think the accomplish phase is there's going to be an incident that is going to require a claim and the insurance is going to pay out. Well, that's one of the accomplished phases. But on something like life insurance, I don't want to put the accomplished phase that far out, right? I want to be talking about, hey, here's where, we put that rider in that allows the policy to grow. It's a variable policy and it allows it to grow next year because of the cost of living change. Boom, look, we made that smart decision. Now you're even protected more than you were before. Oh, good job. There are many milestones, but if you're not tracking these milestones and celebrating with the client will forget to celebrate. We then come to phase 7, the adopt phase. In the adopt phase, the client becomes loyal to us and only us. They're committed. They're bought in. They're not going to go get a policy with their nephew who just became an agent. They're not going to talk to their neighbor who works with a different agent and shift and get different policies over there. They are committed. They are bought in. The thing that insurance agents need to be woefully careful about and really pay attention to is we have a tendency as human beings to take our adopters for granted. The clients who've been with us for the longest, we don't call because we know they're still with us. They've been paying for years. Of course, they're going to keep it going. You can't take your adopters for granted. And if and only if you've had the chance to move a client through those first 7 phases, do you have the right, the opportunity, the privilege to invite them to the last phase, the 8th phase, the final phase, nirvana, the holy grail, what we've been trying to get to this entire time, the advocate phase, where they become a raving fan singing our praises far and wide. They're bringing you referrals. They're writing reviews on Google. They're giving you testimonials, even unprompted. These are the type of clients that every agent wants to have. The problem is most agents want to jump from you became a client and signed the contract to you're an advocate without paying attention to the phases that come in between. This is trying to meet the parents before we've ordered appetizers, right? We got to pump the brakes. We got to slow down. And then when we do have someone that's an advocate, we need to reward and acknowledge their advocacy. So many insurance agents I know, they get referred a new piece of business or they get referred a new relationship. They never even go back and thank the person. And by the way, it doesn't need to be monetary. You don't need to give them money, but you need to let them know that the referral was appreciated. And if they give you a referral that's the wrong kind of referral, which by the way is going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot. What often happens is the insurance agent gets irritated. They're like, oh my God, I don't even sell health insurance. And they referred them to me for health insurance. What an idiot. Oh, is it that the client's an idiot? That they didn't know you didn't sell health? Or is it that you're the idiot for not more clearly explaining what a good referral is? So I think there's a huge opportunity here to foster and develop the kind of referral partners and referral relationships you want by making sure that your clients know the various ways that if they're loving their experience, they can show how much they're loving it. They can make a referral. They can talk about you. They can let other people know that might be interested that you're a good person to look out for and a good person who will look out for them.
I love that. And I do have some questions on that, but I wanted to ask, most agents, I think we've already covered a few of the pain point, a few of the challenges there on them having no actions really post sale on there. But if they're doing anything, they might follow something like an NPS of like, hey, would you recommend us for, an NPS score? What are some better ways or more effective ways of kind of measuring where my clients are at, and am I effectively doing these pieces and moving them through this process as far as versus, hey, on a net promoter score of 1 to 10, what would you give me?
Yeah. And what's interesting about Net Promoter Score is Net Promoter Score worked really, really well when it first came out. The challenge today is a lot of people know what the answers are, and a lot of your clients know what the answers are, and they're not giving you accurate answers. And I would posit that a lot of business leaders take an NPS score and say, well, see, we've got a really high score. Most people are saying they would refer us, but then they're looking at the referrals and they're not getting the referrals. What I would rather do is see a list of all of your clients listed by name in order of the number of referrals they gave you in the last 2 years. Now, a lot of people just lost their minds because they're like, ooh, Joey, when I think about the last 2 years, there's only like 8 clients that have referred me anybody, and I know exactly who they are. Awesome. Are you treating them as such? Are you treating them like gold? Because if you've got hundreds of clients, but only 8 are making referrals, I kind of don't care what your NPS score is from the others that aren't making referrals, right? I care about what about the ones that are actually doing the behavior you want to see repeated? What are you doing to honor those people? Well, Joe, you don't understand. We've got regulations. No, I'm a recovering attorney, folks. I understand. Be in compliance, right? Do the things you're supposed to do. But have you written thank you notes? Have you let them know you appreciate them? Have you gone out of their way to try to find out a way to do something special for them? Special doesn't mean you have to spend money on it. Special means you have to spend intention on it. You have to care about it. And so I think most insurance agents would benefit dramatically from identifying who their top referral sources are and then figuring out ways to acknowledge, appreciate, and reward those people, not only for being in the inner circle and being referrers, but more specifically for the actual referrals they're making. Close the loop, let them know. In my world as a speaker, somebody refers a potential opportunity to me and they hand it off, and now I'm talking to that client to see if they're going to hire me and see if we're going to make this work. I'm keeping the person who made the referral informed. I'm letting him know, hey, by the way, I've got a call scheduled next week with David to talk about speaking at his event. Thanks again for making it. Oh, by the way, I just had a great conversation with David. It was fantastic. We talked about this, this, and this. He said he really appreciated the referral. And I know that I've told you, but let me reiterate, I really appreciated the referral. We're going to see what happens. Then I get the contract and I send them a gift for getting the contract. And then you know what I do? When I actually come off stage after doing the speech, I send them a video and then I send them another gift. You don't just stop when, you've acknowledged it once. Keep acknowledging it. Keep thanking them. I don't believe as humans, we are bumping up very often against maximum gratitude shown. I think there's a lot more space in all of our lives to say thank you more, to say I appreciate you more, and to be specific, not just a general thank you, but I really appreciate you doing XYZ. I really appreciate you making this referral. I really appreciate you putting your trust in me, letting that transfer to your business partner when you told your business partner they should meet with me about getting a life insurance policy for themselves and their spouse. I really appreciate that. And here's what and by the way, they're protected. You don't have to tell them the amounts. You don't have to tell them what's going on. Let's not violate any privacy rules, right? But you can certainly say, hey, guess what? I'm thrilled to tell you they're officially a client now.
I love that. Right. And I love that you brought that up because, even a trait among high performers is a level of analyzing like gratitude, we're grateful for, and on this. And it seems to kind of almost stop there when we talk about it versus now showing that how I'm grateful and how I appreciate people and making that impact, even just someone hearing from that, right? Not only just the updates, but like, hey, I'm thankful for you. I really appreciate you. That means a lot. And for a lot of people, that's enough for them to hear.
That's all they wanted.
Okay,
that's the thing.
Great. I got to acknowledge.
What percentage did we kick him as a kickback? No. Just let me know that the microphone is on, that you acknowledge that I gave you a lead that you actually closed and benefited from financially. Just say thank you. Acknowledge that it happened.
It feels good. I'm going to do it again, right? Like, I'll send them another one, right? And so it's what Joey's talking about here is not, I need to go drop thousands on referral, paying people for referrals and that transactional feel almost to it, which I also want to stay away from. But, it's these touch points that don't take a lot of time, don't take a lot of energy, but are so meaningful and so impactful that we just skip because we're already focused on to the next, right? So
exactly, David. What they take is intentionality. They don't take time. They don't take energy. They don't take money. They take intentionality. And if you're not going to be intentional about acknowledging your referrals, you're not going to get referrals in the future. It's that simple.
I love it. And I know we're not going to be able to dive into a lot, but thankfully wrote a whole book around it. But just due to time on never losing an employee again, what's maybe one tip, a little teaser from that for those that are, hey, I'm now building a team in an agency and this is not a skill set I necessarily have. Can these same principles be applied at all to my team?
So here's the reveal I'll give you, David. When I was writing Never Lose an Employee Again, the first thing I did is I took Never Lose a Customer Again. I opened the document. I did find and replace the word customer with employee. I replaced all the words. I printed it out and I read the book, and it still worked. So then I wrote the second book. Same 8 phases, same first 100 days, same evolutionary journey of the employee journey that maps up beautifully against the customer journey. They're assessing whether or not they want to work with you, right? Then you kind of extend an offer that ideally they accept. It's the only change in the A. It goes from admit to accept, right? You extend the offer, they accept it. Then you need to affirm it because they have new hires remorse. Then you activate that first real day on the job. Then you acclimate the days and weeks after the first day on the job. Then you accomplish. You're tracking what are the goals they're trying to accomplish, not your goals as the employer, their goals as an employee, where they're trying to go in their life, what they're trying to achieve. Then ideally they become an adopter, but don't take them for granted when they do. And then if you're lucky, they become an advocate, writing reviews on Glassdoor, singing your praises. You've got new open positions. They're bringing their awesome friends to work for you. The same things that you do to show your clients that you care about them, you should be doing to show your employees. Now, what I think is really interesting, and I'll close with this, if I were to go to the typical insurance agent and I were to say, tell me 10 things about your number one client. Most insurance agents could do that. They could say, oh, they've got a boat, they've got 3 kids, they love to do this, their favorite team is this is where they like the vacation, et cetera, et cetera. Awesome. Now, pick your newest employee. Tell me 10 things about them. Well, they used to work at, no. I didn't say tell me 10 things about their resume. Tell me 10 things about who they are today. And I watch the fear in their eyes that they have no idea. You cannot expect your employees to deliver remarkable experiences for your clients if you're unwilling to model for them the behavior that you want them to exhibit with your clients. Start treating your people better, and they will start treating your clients better, and your business will grow, and then you'll have more money to pay your people.
Win-win-win all around. Joey, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to hop on and share with us. For those that like, listen, Joey, I want to go check those books out immediately. I know I need them for my team. I know I'm lacking in these spaces. I'd love to connect, learn more. Where's the best place for them to do so?
Best place to find me is on my website, joeycoleman.com. That's Joey, like a baby kangaroo or a 5-year-old, Coleman, Coleman, like the camping equipment, but no relation, joeycoleman.com. The books are called Never Lose a Customer Again and Never Lose an Employee Again. They're available wherever you like to get your books in whatever format you like. There's a hardcover that you can take notes in the margins. There's ebooks that you can highlight on your Kindle or whatever app you're using to read ebooks. And if you've liked the sound of my voice in this podcast, there are audiobooks for each one that I narrate. So I will actually read the book to you if you want to listen to it that way.
Which I'm pretty sure I went through Never Lose a Customer Again on audio. And so it's kind of surreal seeing and having Joey on the podcast after listening to him go through the whole book. So it's fantastic. And guys, we'll get those links as well in the show notes at jumpstartgonow.com/podcast. So you can easily click off, go check them out, go connect with Joey. Once again, Joey, I appreciate you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who's listening in. Best of luck as you go create those kind of remarkable experiences in the first 100 days that are going to keep your clients and your team members coming back for more.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. We'll catch you on the next.